What's good, everybody? I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect, and welcome back to the channel. And as you can see, we've got the first real board of the year, with most players getting in several games to this point. And though some things are starting to be clear, I'm still 100% positive a lot of things are going to change even by the next update, especially considering that at this point in the year, I don't have enough time in the day to watch as much as everyone that I would like to, but you know, that'll happen eventually. But yeah, we'll keep it short and go ahead and get into this one. There are still quite a few players that I want to mention, at least, just given how wide open this class is. So we'll go ahead and do that. Be sure to leave a like and let's get into it. So starting with this large group of freshmen, most of them I like quite a bit already and would probably pick them if they do end up declaring this year, at least in this current moment. And then there are a few others that just feel like multi-year guys right now, so we'll just be able to see how they look throughout the year. But most of them are on this left side, and I like Dalen Swain out of Xavier a lot. KJ Lewis has been fun at Arizona. Elliot Cadeau may very well end up on here. I almost put him on there. Still like his game quite a bit. Garway Dual still has a great chance. The Duke guards are well in the mix too, and then Bronny James is set to play on Sunday, so he'll definitely have a say also. And then there's also some others that just missed the cut. We've got Trenton Flowers and Ario Hukporti on the cusp. AJ Johnson is interesting, but with such little time in the NBL he's gotten so far, it's kind of a hard sell. Then we've also got guys like Nikola Jurisic, Harrison Ingram, Mark Mitchell, Baylor Shireman, Matthew Cleveland, Ryan Kalkbrenner, who we'll likely be talking about for the rest of the year, and we could go on and on about the rest of them. While Dylan Mitchell still hasn't shot the three ball and the free throws have been questionable, he's at least grown in his aggression offensively and stretched his game out to the mid-range. That's probably still a slimmer path to a role in the league as a likely undersized four with what his current strengths are as an athlete and with his defensive versatility, but I do like the progress he's made so far this year. Pacome Dadier is a young French wing playing for Ulm in the German BBL, and he's had some really impressive flashes, particularly in a recent matchup against Zachary Rizachet, where he helped lead a comeback effort in the second half. Now next year might make the most sense for him in terms of his draft stock, but I'm fairly high on him long term, and he'll be one to keep tabs on throughout the year for a potential rise. Tyon Grant Foster has one of the best stories in college basketball this year, starting off going from JUCO to KU to DePaul and then having a life-threatening medical issue that could have ended his career right there. And now he's found himself at Grand Canyon a few years later, where he's lighting teams up as a creating 6'7" guard or wing. He is an older player, but who isn't in this class, and I think he's someone that'll continue to earn his keep. Zvonimir Ivicic is still yet to be cleared by the NCAA, but he remains a really interesting player in this class as a 7'2" forward who has had flashes of being able to dribble, pass, shoot, and protect the rim. If he doesn't play this year, I don't really have any idea what to do with him from this distance, but he's still got to be mentioned at the least just based on the talent and what he's shown in the past. Zach Edey is always an interesting prospect to talk about when it comes to the draft, because while I wouldn't necessarily want his archetype of player on a team I was building, I still think there's room for him in the league. He's remained super productive as a talented post scorer and presence at the rim, and even though he'll have to play much differently in the NBA and that mobility is going to come to the forefront, the size and production are enough to put him here. After bursting on the scene in his third year at North Dakota State, Grant Nelson has taken his game up a level to Alabama and been most of the same guy. I think it's pretty clear that he's not a 5 and is going to need to shoot the 3 better, but I do like his all-around versatility and skill level as a combo forward at 6'11". Santa Clara has what I believe to be a third straight legitimate pro and a second straight transfer that ups their game in their program, and that is Adama Ball. Ball came from Arizona where he played spot minutes for 2 years, but he's now showing what he can do. He's a 6'7" guard / wing with big time shot making flashes, solid live dribble and pick and roll passing, and defensive upside. I'm not 100% sure what role I see him playing in the league just yet, but I like how he started the year so far. Dylan Jones continues to be one of the most productive players in college basketball over the last several years, currently averaging around 22 points and 12 rebounds. He's a big physical guard who can get a bucket, he has good feel as a passer, and can be competent on D. If he continues shooting the 3 ball like he has and can prove to be a viable off-ball threat, he'll continue to move up boards over the course of the year. I've watched a good amount of Xavier games this year, and Desmond Claude has really stood out so far. He's a physical 6'5" wing who's kind of taken over in that Kobe Jones role as their do-it-all guy. He's looked good. Now, he's not a good shooter right now, and that's one of my bigger hangups on him, but I love him defensively, and he's got a good feel as a passer, so he's another guy that I think is just at least worth mentioning at this point. PJ Hall has been one of the better players in the country to this point as a knockdown shooting big who can make plays for others in a variety of ways, from screening to initiating offense. I am still a little unsure whether he's an effective NBA guy, as someone that does have his share of question marks at both the 4 and 5 defensively is kind of a tweener, but I think he's someone worth betting on, especially if he continues this level of play. DaRon Holmes has clearly made shooting the 3 more of a point of emphasis, though it hasn't been on crazy volume, and it's good to see him expand on what's already a productive skill set at this level. I have been wanting a little more out of him defensively and on the glass this year in some of these games, but I definitely still think he's a draftable big. I think we pretty much know what we're getting out of Reese Beekman at this point. He's an NBA level dog of a point of attack defender who deserves much of the credit for completely shutting down Judah Mintz in one of their recent matchups, and right now he's putting up nearly 4 stocks a game as a point guard, which is wild. He's poised offensively, he gets UVA into all their actions, and though I'd still want more from him as a scorer and shooter to be super high on him, I'll definitely take what he does right now. Some of y'all who have been around for a while know that Hunter Salas was once a preseason first rounder for me a couple years ago, and transferring to Wake Forest from Gonzaga, he's officially earned serious draft buzz again as a shot-making 2 guard who has been on fire from 3 and stood out at the point of attack defensively. And if he can continue to play at this level, I think he's got a good chance of staying somewhere in here all year. Ohio State sophomore Roddy Gale is someone I think is a little underrated right now. He's a big skilled guard that can really score and has improved a lot as a passer over the last year. He hustles hard defensively and really made an impact there as a freshman, and I just think there's too many pieces to like to not have him on the board right now. Florida State has a handful of interesting players, and VCU transfer Jameer Watkins has probably been my favorite so far. At 6'7", Watkins already has NBA level athleticism and size. He's a big time defender, he's an excellent playmaker in multiple spots on the floor, and though he'll need to keep improving as a shooter, we're already checking a lot of boxes, and he has taken good steps forward overall offensively. Alex Caravan's combination of size and shooting, while also being in some of the biggest games in college basketball over the last couple years, makes him a worthy prospect. He does have some athletic and defensive limitations and will need to transition to being more of a wing in the league, but you look at a guy like a Sam Hauser or a Matt Ryan on a lower level and see a path to him being a contributor. Adai Mara is one of the tougher prospects to scout this year. We've seen him showcase his talent several different times in the past, but when you have the question marks about his mobility, strength, and just modernizing his game a bit, also matched with him getting a combined 9 minutes against Gonzaga and Marquette and playing alongside a Dembona, it's just not a very good recipe to be able to tell who he is. He's still very talented, but I can't say I take more than a flyer on him right now. Aaron Bradshaw recently made his debut for Kentucky and he was solid. He only played 13 minutes but was a plus 11 in the game that they lost, and he could be the missing piece to this team in the front court, and draft wise he's an intriguing talent as someone that at least has the upside to protect the rim, finish, and hit some outside jumpers in time, so we'll see what he does the rest of this year as he gets acclimated. Alex Tui has pretty clearly been one of the best performing prospects in the NBL so far. The former Gonzaga commit decided to play for the Sydney Kings and it's turned out really well so far. He's a big shooter with legitimate movement skills and two-way impact as a combo forward, and I think he's bound to get more and more draft interest over the rest of this year. Melvin Agenta has cooled off a bit from his hot start to the season, but he is still contributing in a major league as a 19-year-old. He's an athletic lefty wing who has been a mostly positive defender. He loves to get out and run in transition and can create a shot for himself on the perimeter. Now he's currently shooting sub 30 from 3 and 35% from the field on the year, which explains the drop back on the board, but I still do think he has the pieces to contribute. Riley Kugel has definitely had an underwhelming start, but he still has some games that remind you what he's capable of against the likes of Baylor and Wake Forest. I still think his scoring ability, positional size, and defensive upside is an intriguing combo, but he's going to have to show more as a passer, be more consistent as a shooter, and float less through some of these games to get back near the range he was for me to start the year.
Kugel driving.
Judah Mintz hasn't quite taken the big jump we wanted to see in terms of the three-point volume, but he's been one of the best guards in the country and one of the best in the class at getting to the paint, the free throw line, and making plays from there. He's continued to be positive defensively outside of the zone, and though I do want to see the shot more and him handle some of these upcoming ACC matchups well, he's still a potential first-round guy for me.
It's about a 12.5-minute span.
UC Santa Barbara's AJ Mitchell is off to a big start to his junior season, showing off his high-level scoring ability, craftiness, and playmaking. And if we see him continue to shoot at a high clip from 3 and up that volume a little, I think he could end up a first-round pick in this class. And even if he doesn't, he should be well in the draft mix if UCSB can put together a positive season behind his play. Baba Miller's size and movement abilities make him a prospect that'll be in draft conversations almost no matter what. The sell for him at this point is basically giant 3-and-D wing, and I like that for him a lot. Need to see a little more consistency from him on both ends, game to game, but I think he's come back better this year, and some team will certainly take a chance on him. Kylan Boswell fits very well into the mold of complimentary NBA guard as a tough-nosed defender and good decision maker who may also be one of the 3 to 5 best shooters in the class. Even with him being a smaller player and some of the concerns I've had with him as a driver and individual creator, he's a high-level player and someone I think could really pop in the right situation.
In this game, this first half. Oh, nice back.
Baylor's Yves Missi has already been super productive in his first action as a freshman. He's a 6'10" big who moves well and can make an impact on the glass and protecting the rim with a block percentage that's been around 12 to 13% all year. And the case for him as an NBA player is a pretty easy one. He is still fairly raw and can get into foul trouble and isn't reliable at the line yet, but he's an impactful player and I know what he is in the league.
It's fun when you watch guys. Watch this.
Tyler Kolek's great ability to make plays in multiple ways, but especially in the pick and roll, is going to likely get him legit draft consideration. He's got great feel, he's a solid shooter, he's tough, and even though I do still question the defense a little bit, he's completely convinced me he belongs in these combos early this year. Wooga Poplar has taken the jump this year that we expected him to, but it's not necessarily in a huge volume increase as a creator. He's playing pretty much the same game as he did last year as more of an off guard, but he's just become so much better at attacking second side and getting to the pull-up, and when you combine that with his athleticism and defensive upside at 6'5", you got a pretty solid bet to be an NBA contributor. Trey Alexander has had his share of ups and downs so far as he started off the year really hot and then he hit a 2-game 4 for 26 stretch and kind of went cold from 3, but I still think he could be a first round pick next June. I got to watch him in person against Oklahoma State and I really liked how he bounced back in that one and picked his spots, and his 6'10" wingspan definitely stood out. I do think he struggles to create separation a little more than I'd like, but everything else is solid, the playmaking is improved, and that keeps him here for now. After missing most of last season with a torn ACL, it's been good to see Trevin Brazil quickly get back to doing a lot of the things that made him a potential first round pick before he went down. He's a high level athlete that'll likely play the 4 in the league. He's good help side at the rim, he finishes plays, and he's really started to shoot it in a way that's made me like his game even more. And for all those reasons, it looks like he'll be right back in the first round mix at this point.
A little bit, shot clock's down to 3. Brazil. Yeah!
Oso Ighodaro has been another one of my favorites to watch in all of college basketball, and though he's probably a questionable first rounder as a somewhat undersized 5 who doesn't shoot, he's just good at the game. He serves as Marquette's offensive hub a lot of the time, he's super versatile defensively, he has one of the best floaters or push shots in the world right now, and that Brandon Clark meets pieces of Trace Jackson Davis type of game makes him a potential first round candidate in this class to me. Tristan Da Silva has continued to show himself to be an all-around solid wing/forward piece this year. Now, he's had a few games where the effort hasn't been great defensively, a couple where he just hasn't been good offensively in big games against Florida State and Colorado State that would have swung the outcome, but big picture, I think he's a really solid player whose feel and versatility shine through. Bobby Clement remains a potential first round pick as a big wing who has the upside to shoot it, can make a play off the live dribble, and has gotten better defensively over the year. I do think his stock probably moves back a bit if the shot continues to be sub 30% from 3, but there is still enough there to like. Tijan Salon has continued to make an impact for Cholet as an athletic wing who plays with a lot of energy, is versatile defensively, and has some tantalizing flashes as a driver and shot maker. The three ball is still a work in progress and the decision making can be a little erratic at times, but he's produced and likely will continue to rise on boards even if he doesn't project as the most impactful type of player out the gate. Kentucky's Justin Edwards has been pretty disappointing, especially for someone who started the year with talk about him being the #1 pick. He struggled as a shooter, the defense has been wildly inconsistent and just plain bad in some games, which has been my biggest concern, and the creation stuff just really hasn't been there in any real way. I still think he's interesting based on some of the flashes and what I've seen from him previously, but as an older freshman, he'll need to start to show a whole lot more to get back near the lotto range for me. One thing that may never change is Terrence Shannon Jr. starting off a season hot from 3, as he's done it each of the last 3 years, but this time I'm actually buying it given the type of volume that he's shown. You guys should know what he brings to the table by now as a slashing wing who makes a positive impact defensively, and given how good and even dominant he's been early in this year even as a 5th year guy, this should be the year he's finally selected and maybe even in the top 30. Adembon's energy, explosiveness, and defensive versatility has made him a pretty solid choice in this range, and I think he probably stays here the entire year. He's got to start limiting his fouls more and some of the turnovers, but I like the free throw improvements, and he's shown real growth as a driver and with the ball in his hands. He's maybe not the most exciting or skilled prospect, but there's a role I think he can definitely play in the league. KU has had a streak of upperclassmen taking the reins and being one of the best players in the country, and Kevin McCullough is the latest to do so. He's been shining with this big usage role, the playmaking has popped even more this year, and he's still one of the best wing defenders in the class. Now, I'm still not fully bought into the 3 ball. He is shooting it better than ever percentage wise right now, but the release looks the same and teams are leaving him wide open. But if he can prove it over a bigger sample, I find it very hard to believe that he goes much later than the early 20s, and that's a pretty big thing to say for a 5th year player. Dalton Knecht put on one of, if not the best offensive display of the year in the second half against UNC, and just overall he's proven himself to be one of the best players in the country and a legit first round pick candidate. He's got legit wing size, he's a very good athlete, he can shoot it, he can put it on the floor, he can make a play. The offense is definitely there. Now there's still a lot to be desired defensively that could affect his stock in the long run, but he belongs here to me, and Tennessee will likely go as far as he can take them.
I want to be the last guy to make a basket at Carmichael. Yeah, he made a layup, right?
Tyler Smith has been a bright spot for much of the early Ignite season, even through them being a really tough watch. He's a 6'10 lefty forward who can really shoot it, face up, and finish some plays around the rim. And though he struggled at times defensively, I don't think he's a lost cause at all, at least off the ball and offering some rim protection, so he's definitely a player to keep an eye on as a potential top 20 pick. Kyle Filipowski remains a tough player for me to get on board with as a lottery player, but I do think he's solid. He's highly skilled, a good passer at that size, he's got great footwork, the finishing is better this year, and he just produces at a high level. I still think he might be more of a reputation shooter than he is a real one, and that kind of hurts his projection, especially when you combine that with the defense still in the air as a probable NBA force, so that's where it kind of gets tough for me, but he's still comfortably in this area, though it's not as clear as I would hope yet. I hate saying underrated this early in the year, but I do think Kobe Johnson is fairly underrated right now. He's a 6'6 wing who is easily one of the best perimeter defenders in this class. He's improved from 3 and has good connective and team playmaking skills. And in a draft where I think we may end up just looking for players who can contribute somewhat early, to me Kobe has a pretty good chance of being one of those guys. I've been somewhat disappointed in Tyree's practice start given how high I was on him coming into the year. To make matters worse, he left the Georgia Tech game with an ankle injury within the first 2 minutes, but if we zoom out, I still like what he is. I've changed my expectations on the dynamic he can reach as a creator and separator, but I like the decision making, size, defense, shot making, and think he has real appeal as a versatile combo guard. Now, DJ Wagner has had a slower start to the season, but I think it's way too early to be completely out on him. He has some big time games recently showing off what he can do as a downhill driver and growing playmaker, and I'm just not ready to throw him to the second round just yet. Now, in saying that, he's going to have to be better as a shooter and parlay some of those drives into different looks across the floor, but I'm still giving him some time as he recovers from the ankle injury. Every year we get a few one and dones emerge that no one really expected, and I think Bub Carrington is one of those guys. He's a big time shot maker and versatile passer at the lead guard. He's got good size, he's super young, and it's made him a potential lottery pick. Now, there is a decent chance I move off of that if he doesn't get to the rim more often or doesn't put together better games against stiffer competition, but there are a lot of intriguing pieces there with him already. Even though the offensive role is still a little muddy, I'm still a fan of Ethan Almasa's game, and I think he has a very good chance to be a valuable NBA player. His defensive versatility is still pretty impressive for someone of his position and age. He's a good athlete with touch on floaters, he can still pass it. Still a lot of question marks with him, but I am interested in seeing how he looks as this young team starts to figure it out together. Kel'el Ware is off to a pretty good start to the year. He's in a situation where he's now the absolute focal point of this Indiana team, and it's led to a lot of early success, and as a legit 7-footer who's mobile, protects the rim, can finish plays, and potentially stretch the floor, there is a lot of appeal. Now, I've still noticed some motor concerns and positioning on the defensive glass that can be a lot better from a 5-man, but he's improved a lot this season and is probably even a little overextended by the type of things that they need him to do on offense right now. The basics of what Donovan Clingan is giving you is still very much there as a 7'2" paint protector with good movement abilities at that size, but I do have some eyebrows raised at how he's looked in the big games this year, especially offensively. He's still got good elements there on that end, but I want to see a little more, and hopefully we do soon. Reed Sheppard has come in and lit the college basketball world on fire. It's like every game he plays, he checks in, he makes very little mistakes and helps Kentucky win in a significant way, and it's even surprised me how high I am on him to this point. He shot the lights out, he's got high feel to the max, he's a better defender than I anticipated, though he's still been targeted there at times, and while I still have some major questions about the level of creator he can be and some of his athletic tools, he's just clearly good at basketball and is a positive player, and right now I really value what he brings to the table. Now, while I've long appreciated Rob Dillingham's creativity with the ball and scoring ability, he's quickly shown that he's with more than just the shifts, and it's made him a legitimate prospect in this class. He's grown a ton as a playmaker, he's been solid defensively, and when you match that with the physical improvements he's made over the last 6 months, it makes a lot of sense. We'll see what direction he goes from here given the margins that can be small for a 6'1" to 6'3" combo guard, but he's probably the most dynamic offensive prospect of this Kentucky guard trio. Ryan Dunn has been off to an unbelievable start in his sophomore season for Virginia, and the 6'8" forward/wing is currently putting up some of the most ridiculous early season block and steal numbers that we've seen. And beyond just the event creation, he's super versatile, he's smart rotationally, he plays hard, and he's going to be universally liked by pretty much anyone who watches him play. He's risen into the lottery for me because I know what he does at the NBA level and he has an elite skill. Now, there are still concerns in what he does offensively. He's got to shoot the ball better, and that would be most of what I expect from him role-wise long term, but he's at least matched the productivity with the minutes jump this year.
Coleman.
Colorado's Cody Williams has been one of the most impressive freshmen in the country, and right now he looks like a potential lottery pick. Some of the questions in the frame, handle, outside shot, and pull-up ability are still absolutely there, but it's hard to go wrong with the 6'8" wing who can defend, make plays, get to the rim, and has good feel in most facets of the game. Now, this is all still subject to change, but it should be interesting to see how high he could rise if he hits on or at least shows flashes in a few of those areas over the course of the season. Another one of the premier freshmen this year has been Jacoby Walter out of Baylor. He had the first real moment of the year lighting up Auburn for 28 in the opener, and he's had some other big nights along the way. But a 6'5" wing who can really shoot it, attack a closeout, and make an impact on the perimeter defensively makes easy sense. I do have questions about his creation, even dating back to high school, but again, I know who he is in the league, and he has one of the most solid floors of anyone ranked around him right now. Stephon Castle missed the last several weeks with a knee injury, but he did have a couple of nice performances to open the year for UConn and was impactful in lower minutes in his return. He'll still have some questions to answer once he fully gets back, but a wing-sized guard who can make plays, potentially defend a few positions, and serve either as a connector or shot maker is intriguing. Again, we'll have to see what direction his game goes in over the year, but I still like him well in the top 10. After not seeing him play for a while, Matas Buzelis recently made his debut for the Ignite, and it's no coincidence he helped get them their first 2 wins of the season. He's still in my top half of the lottery as a big wing who can shoot the 3, make connected plays, and has shown encouraging signs defensively. He's going to have to be stronger with the ball and show that he can handle as a half-court creator to reach the highest outcomes, but that wing connector with good movement abilities pitch is going to be hard to turn down at some point early in the draft. I have been a strong Zachary Riza-Shea skeptic in the past, but he's changed my mind for a number of reasons over the last month or so. He's a 6'9" wing who's a fluid mover, he's an intriguing connective passer, and has impressed me with some of the results he's had matching up with guards defensively, but his overall production as a scorer and shooter has made him a lot easier to bet on in my opinion, and along the way he's convinced me he belongs with these other loosely similar wings in the lotto. Ron Holland had a shaky start on this Ignite team, but he's also had some good games in there, especially as of late, and I'm not at all ready to move him out of this group. I'm still very impressed with the type of jump that he's made as a creator in such a short time, even if it's not all the way there yet. He's a rim seeker with good size and brings lots of energy defensively, and he just finds a way to produce. Now the shot, the vision, and decision making are still large questions he'll have to answer and could swing him to maybe more of a top 10 guy, but he stays towards the top for now. Nikola Topic has continued to showcase his game as a high-level playmaker for himself and others, and he's moved into my top 5 for it. He's got a ton of craft to his game, he's a unique mover adept at using angles, and even though he hasn't continued to shoot the ball near the level that he was, he's stayed very productive. He's not an explosive athlete or finisher and is questionable defensively still, but there's nobody in this class that's as advanced as he is as a creator, and that holds a lot of weight for somebody who could be the youngest in the class. Isaiah Collier remains one of the premier options in this class as a physical playmaking guard that's very tough to keep in front. Even though he's had his share of faults this year with the high turnovers and not yet figuring out how to effectively counter when teams are anticipating the drive and some of his defensive lapses also, I still like Collier's dynamic downhill abilities, and he shot the ball fairly well too, though on lower volume. We'll see what direction things go in for him, but he's still in that top 3 to 5 group for me. And at number 1, we have Alex Sarr, the 7'1" big man playing for the Perth Wildcats. We just recently dropped a first look video on him, so definitely go look at that if you want a little more detail on what he is and what he brings to the table. But to keep it short here, I think in this class, Sarr's defensive versatility and ability to protect the rim is highly intriguing, and when you combine that with the athleticism and the flashes that he's had offensively, you've got a pretty solid case for him being the top dog. There are some questions that'll need to be answered depending on the team that he's drafted to, but I feel pretty good about having Sarr number 1 right now. And here's a quick look back at the entire top 60. I appreciate y'all for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and leave a comment down below of what you think of this class as a whole, and also some players that you think might rise over the course of the season. I am going to do a podcast sometime within the next week answering some of your guys' questions, mostly NBA draft related, but you can throw some NBA stuff in there as well. So if you do want to get a question in, be on the lookout on the community page and on Twitter. But yeah, that's all I really got for this one. As always, I'm Keandre. This is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.